Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How everyone doing? You alright? You alright? I'd like to give a long, warm round of applause to the welcome. If you know that reference, you're locked in. So, today is going to be a little bit of a wordy and verbose one because we're going to put on our big boy pants and discuss something which is very, very dear to my heart. Uh, it's the thing I find the most interesting in fashion, and it is brand strategy. How do you how do you get things done? How do you get it done? What are the paths? What are the methods? I was reached out to by a guy called Joel Dirksen from LinkedIn, and because he saw that I was following someone else who goes by the name of Max Rayner, and he had just done he has a newsletter which is called Who Says, I think, and they were discussing things to do with brands and strategy, and he's like, I thought you might be interested in it, so he hit me up, and I was like, interested? This is what I'm all about. So thank you, my guy. uh if you're watching, Joel, thank you so much. And I wanted to discuss the article that I read because I found it really interesting. And also, I was amazed at how succinctly and how precisely they touched on all the points that I've been thinking about for quite some time at the moment. So I'm going to go through it. I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction as well to the two guys. Joel Dirksen is the founder of Studio Otherness, and they help brands, well, lifestyle brands, evolve into icons. Nice little tag, love that. Max Rayner, who's the guy that Joel Dirksen was speaking to, is the founder of Rayner Projects, which is a freelance firm that provides strategic services that help to solve brand challenges. I mean, the guy has a solid track record. Really, he does. He's worked with a lot of companies at a high level. He knows what he's saying. Basically, what these two guys have to say, it comes from a place of experience and knowledge, lived in knowledge, and it's clear from me reading it. So the talk is about how to market a legacy brand today, which for me, like I said, is a topic that I'm very interested in, and I'm also uniquely well versed in because of my personal and professional experience with luxury and legacy brands. Um, and so I wanted to talk about some other points that I mentioned. So the first thing that I read that jumped out to me was a statement that was made by, I believe it was made by Max, and he said, brands that do well are taking elements of their myth, elevating them, and retelling these stories in a way that connects with the current luxury zeitgeist. First of all, love that word. Zeitgeist. You're going to get me with a good word. If I see a good word in an article, I'm like, yeah, you got me. So this basically means, and it's touching on a topic that I've mentioned various times, heritage, luxury, craftsmanship, all these things are myths. The people who did them, the people who started them, in most cases are not around anymore to back up their claims. How do we know this is still the case? How do we believe that you're still doing what you claim you're doing? How do I know it's true? So, finding a way to relay this myth, because that's what it is, in a way that would connect with people, that's the source, that's the meat of the whole thing. The next thing that was pointed out was making decisions about what feels archaic and irrelevant versus perpetuating a myth that still has no resonance. And exactly what I'm saying, all of this stuff and these watchwords and these phrases that these brands put out. Okay, great. But who are you speaking to? Does it still resonate with your current customer? Does your current customer even know what that word you're using means? Do they get it? Do they understand its history? In a lot of cases, they don't. But it doesn't mean that if you don't find a way to explain it to them, that they wouldn't get it. So finding that vein to touch on, that spot to hit, striking that nail precisely with the hammer. That's exactly how you make it happen. So Joel uses an example of Burberry, which I loved because I've been discussing Burberry a lot for some reason with a friend of mine. And he said uh, how Burberry has been leaning into their notable motif that's been proven quite successful, whilst the pattern that was done by Peter Saville. Peter Saville is an absolute legend in the design world. Riccardo Tisci, the former creative director of Burberry, hired Peter Saville to redo or come up with a Burberry monogram. And this was inspired, not out of the blue, didn't came from the stars. Tisci wanted this because he found in the archives that somewhere along the line, I think it was in 1908, Thomas Burberry had actually done a logo like this. So again, the myth, perpetuating this myth, the mystery, it was founded in a real place, but it wasn't connecting. They didn't get it. The audience they didn't understand. They didn't grasp the importance. Again, the myth is all good, the mystery is all good, but how does it connect to the people who are buying the product? How does it connect with them? I love that example. Amazing example. And Max then said, on the topic of the current climate for luxury brands and success, he talked about how the largest cross-section of people who are buying into luxury have slowed down due to high interest rates. And actually, I have to add, massive price increase that does not correlate to the products. It just doesn't. Because you see, the reality is, if you ask me to pay more for something, I'm going to assume it's better because that's just the way things go. McDonald's doesn't cost the same amount as Zuma. You get me? Like, if I go to supermarket and buy a chicken and rice plate, I can't expect to pay the same thing or get the same quality that I get from supermarket if I go to Nobu and ask for some chicken and rice. It, it just doesn't make any sense. So I'm not saying that all the luxury brands are doing supermarket style chicken and rice, but whatever price increase that has been experienced, is it really, it's just a question, is it correlating to an improve in the product? Is the product getting better? Is the experience getting better? And if it is it quantifiable? Can I see it? Can we feel it? Questions. Joel then goes back and cites overexposure as one of the major hindrances that brands are facing. Max agrees that pop culture has commoditized luxury, and those previously hidden codes are now out in the open and discussed. This is why I was saying in my last video that the ultra wealthy have moved on to an entirely different kind of luxury. The things that they're experiencing, the way they spend their money is not the same way as it used to be 10, 12, 15, 20 years ago. It definitely isn't. Why? Because everyone has access to it. I live in a place where I could leave my place of work and in less than 15 minutes, I can find myself inside the best restaurant or best club or best hotel in the entire city with next to no barriers to entry. Now, I'm not saying that there must be barriers to entry, but where is the aspiration gone? You can just walk into any of these stores, any of these brands in a shorts and some slippers and a wife beater, and it's okay. There's no barrier to entry. So how do you expect that myth you're trying to perpetuate to stay and to last when it's so accessible by everyone? And you know, there is an obvious thing that we need to talk about, which is accessibility and scaling. I've mentioned this before. I understand and I agree that in order for you to make money in order for your business to grow, it needs to be scaled up. You have to make it bigger. You have to sell more. But at what cost is my question. At what cost? Because Max actually mentioned he feels that there is an obvious risk to being a household name when it comes to scaling and production. Is this possible without compromising standards and quality? I have a very interesting anecdote that I believe I came up with myself when it comes to this. Whenever I'm approached by someone who has a problem or a complaint about a product that they've received from any of the brands that they receive products from, and they mention this to me, oh, I bought this from that place, can you imagine this happened? I always ask them this very simple question. If it's a woman or a man, it applies to both. I ask them, if a woman gave birth to 2 children, how would you expect them to turn out? Like, what kind of question is that? Simple. If a woman gives birth to 2 children, how would you expect them to turn out? Well, normal, right? Good. If that same woman gave birth to 10 children, how would you expect them to turn out? Well, 10 is getting a bit much now, isn't it? Usually when I say this, if it's a woman, it hits home harder because they know what happens, especially if they've had children. So I love using this. And she's like, 11 children? I couldn't do that. Well, I mean, I could, but I don't know. Maybe okay. Maybe they'll be okay. Then I asked, if a woman was to give birth to 1,000 children, do you expect that all 1,000 children of them are going to come out okay? The obvious answer is no. So you see, the Most High, our Creator, has made our bodies divine machinery. Divine machinery, the things the human body can do, it's bewildering. It's beyond comprehension. However, we have our limits. We do. You cannot ask a woman to give birth to 1,000 children. They're not going to be okay. I don't even know if she's going to be okay. So I then flip the question back on its head. We're now talking about an inanimate object, things made by our hands. We are not creators. We might be creative, but we are not creators. The closest thing we can come to that is women, because they give birth. But when it comes to making a product, a shoe, a bag, a jacket, pair of sunglasses, if I make 10 of them, it's good. If I make 100, okay. If I make 1,000, I don't know, my guy. It's gonna be iffy. If I make 10,000, can you really expect that all 10,000 are gonna come out looking well? The question is obviously no. So this is my question. How can we be sure, or how do we know that scaling for these big brands results in a maintaining of that standard that they are expecting us to believe that they have? How? Because if we as human beings that have a divine hand on us can't scale, if we can't scale, why am I supposed to believe that you can't? Like how? What is it that you have? What is it that you're able to do that the human body, in all its magnificence, in all its splendor, in all its power, cannot do? But this machine that I made with my hands can do it? Sure, buddy. So the talk was ended, at least in the part that was relevant to me. They talked about luxury hospitality and things, and I'm not well versed in that. I know a little bit about luxury hospitality and hotels and all that stuff. I love the Aman Group. The Four Seasons are amazing. I've stayed in a lot of hotels in my life, from my childhood to up till now. I love them and everything, but I like to talk and discuss topics that I have real life experience, personal and professional in. So I'll leave the hotel so the people who understand that. But yeah, the Aman, crazy. Anyway, the last comment, which for me was the best, is how mystery and myth making should be the big focus from the start. Also, being selective about who and how you let people in. And this really struck me because I think that's the crux of the whole matter. How are you giving people an understanding of what your brand represents? What is that myth that you're selling? What is that mystery? If you don't have that and maintain that myth and mystery, eventually it becomes normal, it becomes quotidian, it's everyday, it's daily. If your brand is in every single household, then why am I aspiring to have it? I understand, I've discussed this, the sheep mentality, and I get it. But is there longevity in that? Honest question. I don't know. I don't know. I don't believe that there is. I believe that there is only a finite amount of time that you can keep doing that, and eventually it becomes watered down and people are no longer interested. Let us apply this same concept to relationships, to people. Your celebrity status exists because we don't know them. We don't know who they are. We see them on TV, the artists, the musicians, the actors, the models. We see them on TV, we see them in magazines, we see them in films. Once in a while, you might see them in person. Because of what it is that I do for a living, I've met more celebrities than I care to mention. And I'll tell you something. Once that mystery and allure goes away, once that myth dissipates, and you talk to the person face to face, I'll be honest with you, most times I find I have more depth than they do. I find I have more experience than they do. I find I have so much more interesting about me than they do. But I have to add this. This is coming from a place of a deeper understanding of what it is that we are supposed to be as humans. And so I'm not easily swayed by all those exterior things because to me that I know that once you get alone in front of a mirror and it's just you and you looking back, all of those things they fall away and what's left is who you really are. And I try not to let that dictate how it is that I view someone because I know that all of those things that you have, the designer clothes, the money, the accoutrement, the looks, they'll fade away one day and you'll be left with you and your maker. And then a decision needs to be made. How did you live your life? That's what really matters. So myth and mystery is extremely powerful. If you can find a way to wield it from the start of your endeavor, of your product, of your experience. I mentioned in one of my videos about how you can have a Pilates class, but only take a certain number of people every month. At the beginning, it's going to confuse. Like, wait, why are you saying no to me? I want to be in there. But people are drawn to this. As human beings, we gravitate to that thing that we don't know. This is just how things are. So I would like to end on this being that the real way to maintain the luxury standpoints that a brand will have would require you to have a deeper understanding of the myths and the mystery and the heritage that you have, but find a way to make that resonate with the people that you're currently trying to sell to. Because just because it's a house code from 1890 doesn't mean that today it's relevant. The people who made that house code 3 generations down the line, they no longer exist. As per usual, I don't make the rules, I only enforce them. If you have the time, go and read that article. I'm going to put a link to it in the description of this video. And thank you so much for watching. Peace and love.